Welcome back to Computer Science Dbms classes, Database Management System, Session 51, Topic Introduction, Buffering of Blocks and File Operations, which comes under Chapter 8, Record Storage and Primary File Organization. So first of all, what is meant by buffering blocks? So buffering blocks, and then what is buffer here? The main concept is buffer. This is very important here. What is buffer? A buffer is a temporary storage location. Buffer is a temporary storage location for data while the data is being transferred. What is buffer? Buffer is a temporary storage location for data and while the data is being processed. It's nothing but buffer is a temporary storage location. That's all for data. Okay. How is the process of transferring the data between a program and an external device? Here we're transferring the data between program and external device. Okay, so I will taking simple diagram or example there. You see that example or program. So we have T1, T2, T3 and T4 temporary buffers. So concurrency of A and B, parallel concurrency of C and D, and T4 is nothing but interleaved. So I'm taking an example A, B, A. Okay, so A is there, B is there and A is there, and T3 it got T and T4 in between C and D is there. So totally concurrency A and B and T4 and C and D. Actually these both means these both buffers are clarified between two processes. It's nothing but buffer. Okay, so that is called as buffer. That shows the simple introduction or about buffer. So here, so when several blocks need to be transferred, from disk to main memory and all the block addresses are known, several buffers can be reserved in main memory to speed up the transfer. So when several blocks need to be transferred from the disk to maintain memory and all the blocks addresses are known, several buffers can be reserved in main memory to speed up the transfer. While one buffer is being read or write, the CPU can process data in other buffer. So totally one buffer is being read or write, the CPU can process data in the other buffer. That is called as buffering. Okay, fine. So next, consider two processes. Here we have two processes. One is called A and B that run concurrently. Concurrently means what? Simultaneously. Concurrently means simultaneously in interleaved fashion. So here above diagram or above this diagram that shows, consider two processes A and B that are concurrently simultaneously in interleaved fashion. Consider other two processes C and D that run concurrently in a parallel fashion. So here first A and B that run concurrently in interleaved fashion, but C and D that run concurrently in a parallel fashion. That is called as buffering of blocks. So then I will take one example. I will take another one that is called as double buffering. So what is meant by double buffering? Double buffering means what? The CPU can start processing a block. Okay, the CPU can start processing a block once its transfer to main memory is completed. At the same time, the disk IO processor can be reading and transferring the next block into a different buffer. This mechanism is known as double buffering. Once again, I will repeat what is meant by double buffering. The CPU can start processing a block once its transferred to main memory is completed. At the same time, the disk IO processor can be reading and transferring the next block into a different buffer. This mechanism is known as double buffering. This mechanism is known as double buffering because that contains processing a block or main memory. At the same time, the IO processor can be reading or transferring. That will be read and transfer. Both works will be completed at a time in different buffer. So that method is known as double buffering. This can be used. What is the use of this double buffering? This can be used to speed up the transfer of continuous disk block. These can be used to speed up the transfer of continuous disk blocks. We can continuous transfer of disk blocks. So one simple diagram is there, that is called as parallel processing or double buffering. You see, parallel processing, junk is there, A is there, B and A. So time is there, display, CPU. Okay, fine. So here A allotted to B allotted to B, A, B, A, and we can sync V, and we can sync both the A and B. Totally, finally, we have two buffer location. The one is called A and B. Totally, this one is called as placing a file record on disk. Placing a file record means that will be the double buffering. It has two buffering options. The one is called A and B. What is meant by placing a file records on disk? What placing a file on record means? First of all, we know something about record. So what is record? You see, record is a collection of related data, values or items. What is record? Record is a collection of related data, values or items. Record is a collection of related values or items. So once again, record is a collection of related data or values. Record type. What is meant by record type? A collection of field names. And their corresponding data types. A collection of field names and their corresponding data types forms a record type or record format definition. Totally, a record type, a collection of field names and their corresponding data types forms a record type or record format definition. What is meant by data type? A data type is associated with each field, specifies the types of values a field can take. Data type specifies the types of values a field can take. Okay, two types of record types are also there. The one is called fixed length record type, and the second one is called fixed length, and another one is called each field has a fixed length and fixed records. Okay, fine. So next, actually each field has a fixed length. So what is meant by each field of a fixed length? The number of records, the length of each field are available in the file header. Okay, so what is meant by fixed length record type? Fixed length record type is nothing but the number of records, the length of each field are available in the file header. Variable length record type. Variable length and record type. Each field is its own length. Each field has their own length. Okay, next, the number of records, the separator symbols are used as record in the file header. Okay, the number of recorders, the separate symbols are used for record in the header. So totally types of record types are there. They are fixed length or record type. Each field is a fixed length. Each field is of its own length. The number of records, the separator symbol used as recorded in the field. So totally record type, data type, types of records types are there. Fine. So next, files. What is meant by file? A file is a collection of similar records where each record is a collection of data, values or data items. A file is a collection of similar records where each record is collection of data, values or data items. So here, a file description or file header includes information that describes the file, such as field names and their types and the address of the blocks on the disk. Okay, that is called as a file descriptor or file header. Okay, fine. Next, a file can have two types of records. Already you know file can have two types of records. They are fixed length records and variable length records. Fixed length records and variable length records. What is meant by fixed length records? What is meant by fixed length records? So here the file or a file where all the records are of the same length is said to be fixed length. A file where all the records are of the same length is said to be fixed length. A file where all the records are of same length is said to be fixed length. Okay, so fixed length always depend on the same length is to be fixed length. Okay, records are of the same length is to be fixed length. So what is the advantage of fixed length record? Access is fast because computer knows where each record start. The main advantage of fixed length record is access is fast because computer knows where each record starts. Okay, fine. What is the disadvantage of this fixed length record? Using the records are usually larger and therefore need more storage space and are slower to transfer. The main disadvantage of fixed length records are records are very larger and requires more storage space, and these are very slower. Three disadvantages are there. One is called records are larger, need more storage space, and these are very slower to transfer. So these are the disadvantages of fixed length record. So next, what is meant by variable length records? Variable length records means one or more fields of different lengths. One or more fields of different lengths and each record called variable length record. One or more fields of different length, okay. Variable means different length in each record. Fields of different lengths in each record is called variable length record. So what is the main advantage of this record? Records will be smaller, but fixed length records are very larger, but variable length records are very smaller and need less storage space, but fixed length records are need more storage. So this is the main advantage of variable length record. What is the disadvantage of variable length record? Computer unable to determine where each record starts. The main disadvantage of variable length record is computer unable to determine where each record starts. That is very difficult. It is very difficult to understand. It is very difficult to identify the particular operation. Suppose if you want to allocate files on disk, so then you can allocate, and allocation method refers to how disk blocks are allocated for files. Allocated means insertion. So one main problem file management is how to allocate space for files so that disk space is utilized properly and files can be accessed quickly. There are three major methods of allocating disk space. One is called the continuous allocation method, second one is called linked allocation method, third one is called indexed allocation method. Contiguous, linked allocation method, indexed allocation method. These are the three allocation methods are there. Each method adds its advantages and disadvantages. The first one is called what is meant by contiguous allocation. The contiguous allocation method requires each file to occupy a set of contiguous address on the disk. Disk address define a linear ordering on the disk. So in particularly file, contiguous allocation method requires each file to occupy a set of contiguous address. Contiguous means continuous address is very important here. So a set of contiguous address on the disk. Disk addresses define a linear ordering on the disk. Suppose if you are taking file A, file B, file C, file D, so automatically these are stored file A, file B, file C, file D, and file E. So the difficulty with the contiguous allocation is finding space for new file. Okay, another problem with the contingent allocation is determining how much disk space is needed for a file. So this is the major problem. What is meant by linked allocation? The problems in contiguous allocation can be traced directly. The problems in the contiguous allocation can be traced directly to the requirement that the space be allocated contiguously and that the files that need these spaces are of different sizes. These requirements can be avoided by using linked allocation. So what is the use of linked allocation means the problems in contiguous allocation can be traced directly to the requirement that the spaces be allocated contiguously and that the files that need these spaces are different sizes. These requirements can be avoided by using linked allocation. So in linked allocation, each file is a linked list of disk blocks. Each block contains a pointer to the next block and the last block contains the nil pointer. Okay, because that contains so many allocations, each and every one linked to be each other. Suppose we have file 1, file 2, suppose file A, file B. So file 1, file AB linked to each other. So the major problem is that of linked allocation inefficient to support direct access. It is sometimes is very effective only for sequential access files. To find block of file, it must be start with the beginning of that file. So sometimes pointers being lost and damaged, the effect of which could be picking of a wrong pointer and linking it to a free block and into another file. Third one is called indexed allocation. The indexed allocation method is to be solution to the problem of both contiguous and linked allocation. So this indexed allocation method is the solution to the problem of both contiguous and linked allocation. This is done by bringing all the pointers together into one location called index block. Okay, it contains index block. It supports direct access by bringing all the pointers together into index block. Means it supports directly access by bringing all pointers together into indexed block. So indexed block allocation, each file has its own index block which is an array of disk sectors of address. The entry in the index block points in the ith sector of the file because that will be stored in like a indexer serial number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 like that. Record block is there. What is meant by record block? The records of a file must be allocated to disk blocks because block is a unit that transfer between disk and memory is called record block. The records of a file must be allocated to a disk blocks because a block is a unit of data transfer between disk and memory is called record block. Disk block is there. A block is a unit of data in a disk. A block is a unit of data in a disk that is called as disk block. So next, the very important is file operation or operations on file. So here file operations, we have 4 file operations: general operation, retrieval operation, update operation and combine operation. The OS provides systems to call create, write, read, reset and delete file. What are the general operations here? So general operations means open. First one is called open. What is meant by open here? It prepares the file for read or write. It prepares the file for read or write. It sets the file pointer to the beginning of a file. That is called as open. What is meant by resetting a file? The directory is searched for the appropriate entry and the current file position is reset to the beginning of the file. That is called a resetting file. Next, close. This operation will perform closing the file from buffer. This operation will perform closing the file from the buffer. Creating a file. What is meant by first, a space in the file must be found of the file. The second, an entry for the new file must be made in the directory. The directory entry records the name of the file and the location of the file system. So second one, retrieval operation. So these type of operations do not change any data in a file but only locate certain records so that their fields values can be accessed. Find or locate, this operation searches for the first record satisfying search condition. Reading a file. This file is used to read a file. Find next. This operation search for next record in the file that satisfies the search condition. Update operation. These are changes. These are all changes. The file by insertion or deletion, by modification or modification values. Update operation as insertion, deletion and modification values. Writing a file. To write a file, a system call is made specifying both the name and the file and the information to be written to the file. Given the name of file, the system searches the directory to find the location of the file. Deleting a file. To delete a file, the directory is searched for the named file. Having found the associated directory entry, the space allocated to the file is released and invalidates the directory entry. That is called as writing. Suppose if you are deleting a file, so writing a file is nothing but write a file. Delete a file is used to delete a file. The directory is searching for the named file. Having found the associated directory entry, the space allocated to the file is released and invalidates the directory entry. That is called as delete. Next, insert. This operation is used to add another record in the existing file. Insert operation means this operation is used to add another record in existing file. So fourth one is called combined operations. These are all known as set at time operation. Combined operation is known as set time operation. They are find all. This operation locates all the records in the file that satisfies search condition. Find all. This operation locates all the records in the file that satisfies search condition. Find ordered. It retrieves all the records in the file in some specified order. Recognition. It starts the recognition process. The operations described only the minimal set of required file operations. More commonly, we shall be want to edit and file or modified operations. A special case in editing a file, appending a new information at the end of the file. Totally, we have 4 operations. That's called operations on file. One is called general operation, retrieval operation, update operations, combined operation. What is meant by general operation? So here general operations means it prepares, first one open, it prepares file or read or write. Second one resetting the file, the directly searched for the appropriate entry and the current file position is reset on the beginning of the file. Close, it is used to closing the file from buffer. What is creating file? First we space in the file system and we can create a file. Second one retrieval operation. This type of operation do not change any data in the file but only locate certain records. Find or locate. This operation searches for the first record satisfying a search condition. Reading a file. Second one, to read a file. Find next. This operation search for next record in the file that satisfies the search condition. Update operations. So update operations means these are changes the file by insertion or deletion or by modification values. These as 3 operations. The one is called writing a file. To write a file, a system call is made specifying both the name and the file and the information to be written to the file. Deleting a file. To delete a file, the directory is searched for the named file. Insert. This operation is used to add another record in the existing file. That is called as insertion. Combined operation. These operations are also known as set at time operation. Set at time operation. They are. One is called find all. This operation locates all the records in the file that satisfy search condition. Find ordered. It retrieves all the records in the file in some specified order. Reorganization, it starts the recognition process. So this is a buffering of blocks and file operation. So thank you very much. I will see you in next session.